Hello, everyone. Once again, we're here with another panel for Dragon Con. Today's topic is vampires, monsters, and more. These are all the things that go bump in the Absolute and Red Giant universe. Obviously, horror and darker themes and things like that are very popular. It's part of our mythos, and obviously something that we enjoy and people on the whole enjoy as well. Because the Absolute universe is always something that explores different genres, there are also subgenres and things like that we are able to explore more fully as well. First book up is a bit of a different book. It's part of the Absolute line, but in a way, it's kind of almost like a let's try this out, try and build up an audience a little bit at a time type of book. It's called Absolute Flip Book. The Absolute Flip Book is an anthology series. First of the year, we're going to be trying to take it to, we have enough material that we can actually take it to a monthly. So right at the beginning, we launched with a book called Pandora's Blogs, and it's a flip book because if you notice when you flip it around, it's upside down. That's because you flip it to read it. And the other side is Monster Isle. Pandora's Blogs is about a young teenage girl who moves. As you can see, the artwork is gorgeous. She's a young girl, goes to a new town called Legends, Florida, and her mom is working for this mysterious doctor who we will see. She treats rare diseases, and these diseases seem to mimic monsters and people, things out of mythology. So you get a little bit of werewolves, so you get vampires, gargoyles, even everything. And we've got enough material for that for about 5-6 issues of Pandora of Absolute Flip Book. On the other side, and by the way, that one is written by David Campetti, and the art is by Jinky Coronado. This is available in the store. I'll show you guys the cover for issue 2 on the flip book on that. Here are my kids in the background. This is the cover for issue 2. Which, as you can see, is her hanging on for dear life. So let's see. So then for issue 1, on the other side is Monster Isle. Now this is created by Brian Augustine and Eisen Robbins and written by Larry Hama. So it's got a lot of a pretty good pedigree. We've got, I think, it'll be in the first 4 issues of Absolute Flip Book. And here is the cover for that. As you can see, it's kind of, I actually did that cover. So this is available in our store. Which you can buy it now. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the Absolute Flip Book concept. Like I said, we do want to have that coming out. So a story, for instance, like Monster Isle may start out in that. And if we feel it's built up the audience and people seem to like it, then it can then come out and have its own series with its own premiere and its own number 1. With a fan base already built in. I'm a big fan of the anthology series. It's a great way for us to test a variety of ideas, also showcase some maybe quirky things without a huge investment. And Hopefully, you guys can enjoy that. There's some, for instance, I know we're going to be doing remastered First Daughter in that series and things like that. So the Absolute Flip Book is a great place. Um, it's much like Marvel Comics Presents. That's where you had the first Weapon X story, or Dark Horse Presents. Dark Horse Presents is where you had a ton of new IP come in. So for key issues and collectors, that's going to be a series I highly recommend taking a look at. Let's see. We've also got, before I forget, all of the first issues that I put here will be available in our store. I'm providing the link now. And also at any time, you can feel free to chime in and ask any questions. But Absolute Flipbook is an absolute comic. Next up, now this one is already an absolute comic. It's called Katrina. Now, Katrina is the vampire when we're talking about vampire stories set in the absolute universe. The story here is, let me give you the backstory. Around the late 1700s, early colonial New Orleans, the founding fathers, the way the story goes is that the founding fathers wanted to gentrify and kind of, hold on one second. They wanted to get the upper class, better class of people in New Orleans. So in order to do that, what they did was they sent out a letter to all of the upper class and said, hey, we've got these eligible young bachelors here. Send your daughters. And so the upper class sent their daughters with their dowries by boat. They arrived. Well, it was all a lie. There weren't eligible young men there. And then the second phase went into effect where they sent out letters saying, hey, eligible young bachelors, we've got the young women. Come here and marry them. So it was a two-pronged marketing ploy, and it worked. However, the girls that when they showed up, they had these trousseaux with them. And the trousseau, that's what they kept their dowry in. Back in the day, basically, young women paid for their husbands to marry them. A very bizarre practice, but that's how it was. So these dowries that they came over with were kept in these things that looked like coffins. And so the girls were called the coffin girls while they waited. And these coffins, these trousseaux, were kept in the attic of the attic of the Ursuline convent until the men arrived and they were going to have the weddings. This isn't, by the way, I should mention, this is literally supposedly what happened. There's some dispute on that, but again, this is the story that is told. So when the young men arrived, which was months and months later, they went up to the attic, opened it up that had been sealed, and all of the trousseau, the coffin-shaped trunks, were empty. Around that time, there were some bizarre murders with people all over the place, being drained of blood and things like that. And so the rumor went around that those coffins didn't have dowry, but instead carried over vampires. And then the murders eventually stopped, and when the attic was sealed shut, and the attic for almost a little over 200 years remains sealed shut. Where Katrina comes in is that attic was finally unsealed during Hurricane Katrina. During Hurricane Katrina, this really happened. A chimney was lifted off and the roof and crashed into the attic, exposing it for the first time in hundreds of years. So I always thought that was awesome. And so in our story, it turns out that the queen vampire, Katrina, was being locked up there and kept in stasis. And yet she vowed that when all the men of New Orleans curse her name, she would be free. And her name is Katrina. Thus the title. So we follow the adventures of two police detectives who stumble upon these events and what they, along with a priest, are trying to do to stop the apocalypse and the release of Katrina. So we have an A cover, which, as you can see, is foil. And this is part of the White Widow Absolute Universe. Now, you might be going, wait a minute, this was set in 2005. How is this part of? We'll get there. You'll see it's actually a big surprise. But here is the B cover. This is actually what's called the White Widow variant. This is by Jamie Tyndall. And hiding out right there, you can see, is the little White Widow hiding. These are available as well in our Dragon Con store. They're sold out in retail. So, but we do have some copies. If you're a local retailer, you can contact us and stuff. I believe Diamond's out, but don't quote me on that. To show you the upcoming covers for that series, we have an A and a B cover as well. Here is the A cover, which, dark and foreboding. And here is the B cover. Now, this is a I Make Boys Cry, which you see graffitied here, variant by Crease Art. This will be a foil variant. So they're a lot of fun on that. Again, I should mention, if you have any questions at any time, feel free to ask and on this or any of the series. And so far, we've covered a couple. The next, I guess what I should say is that, like I said, Katrina the series does cross over with the White Widow universe, but I will warn, it's going to take a bit because we have to finish this first arc, and then what the aftermath is where you'll see.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat what you said?
It sounds like my Siri is acting up with the kids in the background. The other series, now we did talk a little bit about this the other day, and that's Darkon. If you missed the Darkon discussion, Darkon issue 3 crosses over with White Widow issue 6. It's a 2-part story. So clearly is part of the series, but it is definitely very much a horror bent type of series. The series I created, it's the oldest series that I've worked on. Ricardo Jaime is the artist, phenomenal artist, and I got Mort Castle to handle the writing for the first 2 issues, and then he'll jump back on issue 4. If you're not familiar with Mort Castle, you can Google him. He is a fairly famous horror novelist. Um, and I wanted this to be easily our darkest, no pun intended, um, series. And he's got some really dark stuff in here. Um, issue 1 had 3 covers. We had the A and the B cover, which, as you can see, are a little darker. They mirror each other. The B cover, both of them have foil, but the B cover has much fewer quantity produced. Then we have the C cover, which was again one of those White Widow variants proving, and White Widow is hiding out in his cape. You just really have to look, and you can see her hiding out in there. This is by Jamie Tyndall, and again, it's a purple foil. These are available in our Dragon Con store. Again, the link is provided. Now, the story for Darkon, I'll get a little bit more into this than I did on the other. The first 2 issues, we're introduced to Darkon, and we realize quite quickly that something's a bit bizarre. There's supposedly been a family of people going by the name of Darkon for at least 100 years, some dating back to the late 1700s. He is known as, he's been a stage musician, he's been a supposed paranormal investigator, he's had TV shows, radio serials, everything. The Darkon name. Everyone thinks that it's a family and they just pass on the name father to son, but they look exactly the same. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding the character. Turns out you see quite quickly that it does have magic and is super powerful. I can tell you that he is not what typically you would think. As far as everyone's concerned, he seems like on the surface to be like a Doctor Strange type of character, but believe me, he is something far, far darker than Doctor Strange. There's a lot that's going to be here between what his motivations are, why he does what he does. He seems like one thing, but in reality, he's something completely different. That's one of our hallmarks, is that we do not like to do the standard type of scenario. Issue 1, the story revolves around him meeting up with, some people who want to make a new movie, and some funny little asides. We get a bit of an introduction to him, and we see that there have been a series of horrific suicides, very paranormal type of things. And at the end of it, the ghost of his former girlfriend comes and asks for his help to solve these murders. So it's easily a very bizarre thing. A little spoiler, we find out in issue 2, the reason she's his ghost is because she killed him, or he killed her, because she was trying to kill him once she found out who and what he really is. So whenever I say that there is a dark secret, that's how dark this secret is. The events of issue 3 are with White Widow, take place immediately after issue 2, and then dovetails back into the rest of the story that will finish off that story arc by Mort Castle. And just to give you quick, this is the issue 2 preview cover. That's the A cover. And then again, we had the I Make Boys Cry variant, which shows a very sinister. This one, like the Katrina, is by Crease Art, Creees Art. And it's a lot of fun. We got Michael asks, do all the horror titles have any sort of influence on each other or none at all? Yes, these will all cross over eventually with one another, because we do believe in the connected universe. So far, we're pretty certain that, for instance, out of the Absolute Flip book, let me see if I can find that. So, out of the Absolute Flip book, which was the anthology series, Monster Isle, we would like to see it finish its arc in Absolute Flip book and then have its own premiere if everything continues as it is. So it's already kind of proving itself to be popular. And that one, then we're already planning literally for its first issue to have it crossover. Same thing, Darkon will, I cannot, like Katrina, the first arc has to finish where she's in, where it's set in during Hurricane Katrina, and once it finishes that arc, it will then do a flash forward to now and be able to see how that ties in. And that one I am planning to have White Widow um, um, interact, and then Darkon as well. So there will be some fairly immediate crossovers at that point between those two. So those are kind of the main horror books in the Absolute universe. Then we do have a couple of other titles I do want to make you guys aware of, because there's also the Red Giant. Now, the Red Giant universe do not intermingle with this, but they are fun books nonetheless. One's a little bit younger, accessible, but still enjoyable by adults. It's Magica. There was a movie that we co-produced called Nico Journey to Magica that was on Hulu, but unfortunately, I due to some bad practices by the distributor, that's not on there anymore, even though it was number one at the time. But this is the A cover, and this is the B cover. This is the one. This B cover is only available on. It's not available in stores anywhere. This is only available in Dragon Con. So, and we only produced a few hundred of it, and it's the one with foil. So if you like rare collectibles, this is that. And you can see the artwork is quite beautiful. That copy got bent. Shows how well I take care of things. But so, and then the other title is Shadow Children, which, by the way, Magica, I co-produced the movie on that, so that's my connection here. And then I'm the editor along with Jenna on these. Shadow Children, again, this is the A cover. This is the only cover that was available in retailer, and this is the only cover you can only get it here. So the links are on the YouTube channel, or you can go to any of the links for our Dragon Con booth, but only a few hundred of this. But it is a gorgeous book as well. Issue 2 is already done and going off to the printer. So, I highly recommend those books. The story for Magica is it's a young boy who his parents have passed away. He's living with his grandparents. There's a mystery that surrounds him to a degree, and he doesn't realize it, but he has a portal in his grandparents' backyard. Then that goes to a realm called Magica. And then Shadow Children is um, a it's a very, very dark, almost like a Children of the Corn type of thing, if you know that reference. Um, Shadow Children has this big green guy you see here in the background who collects lost children or abused children, takes them to his realm where they develop powers and abilities. And they kind of terrorize people to a degree. It's really dark. It's funny because I love the fact that the artwork is kind of almost, in some ways, uh, happy and cheerful, and yet the subject matter and things that go on are so dark. So, um, is there red giant store, or will everything be available at the Absolute? Eventually, they may be available in the Absolute store, but for right now, we have not added those. Again, like I said, so you can get them here. Um, we're trying to figure out how best to do that because, again, those are other creators and the agreements on those are different. But these are our copies, so Jenna and my copies. So we are able to sell those here. And these two are not available anywhere at all. So the B covers. So literally could be the some of the rare times to get a hold of those. But yeah, that's kind of just a look at the horror segment of the Absolute Universe. So if there are any other questions or anything, feel free to ask. Darkon, Katrina, just so everyone understands, it's selling out. It is our fourth most popular title. I have a strong suspicion that Darkon, if you haven't picked it up, it's going to go through the roof as we start seeing the sales for the White Widow crossover, because anytime a character is seen by the world at large, for it to cross over with the White Widow, people realize, oh, this is part of the connected universe. Because not everyone gets to come to these videos or pays attention to our websites, etc. But once they find out, it goes through the roof. But Katrina, without any of that, is basically sold out. So that one's doing really well. And Absolute Flipbook, I believe, is close to selling out, if it hasn't already, through Diamond. And the breakout hit is Monster Isle. Are you open to new writers with character ideas to pitch them to you? Yes and no. The hard part is it's not ideas that get picked up. It's projects, like completed, fully fleshed out projects. But what I can tell you is a lot of that is explained in depth. Tomorrow, we're going to have a panel tomorrow morning titled Breaking into Comics the Digital Way. And it's kind of a guide that I've given at numerous conventions that lets you know how to break in, whether with us or anywhere else. For instance, the Resilient guy, we just had that panel, finished that panel about an hour and a half ago, and he followed that path exactly how I described. So I highly recommend checking out that panel. If you missed the beginning of this panel, you can always rewatch it on YouTube or any of the other panels on our YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that fun jazz. Also, you can see these panels and live streams on the Facebook page /live, LIVE. So we've got one more panel tonight, which is a bit of a departure. It's our first ever. We're going to be doing a live stream sale and auction. So this is September 6th, 2020, just in case anyone's watching later. And at 8:30 tonight, we're going to start our very first live stream sale. So be sure to tune into that. We'll have a bunch of stuff and you can pick stuff up that way as well. All right. Thanks again, guys. I want to say I appreciate you joining us, and anything you do to spread the word, let others know, post us on Facebook. It always helps because all of this does expand our universe, and you are a part of it. Thank you. Bye.